I've been in the media business for almost exactly a third of a century now. Worked all that time in research, which is understanding how media consumers behave, why, and perhaps most importantly, how that's going to change in future. Basically, people put electrodes and a little cap on their heads, and that measures electricity or electrical currents within the brain. What we can do with neuroscience is to relate brain activity to what we ask respondents to do, such as engage with different media, for example. Most of what goes on in our brain, about 95%, actually is below our level of conscious awareness. So we simply don't even know that we're thinking it or feeling it. It's been proven that that brain activity is a much better predictor of people's future consumer behaviour than the traditional Q&A techniques that most market research provides. We recruited 160 people, which for neuroscience is a big sample, across the north and south of the country. We invited them in for a 2-hour session where they were exposed to 3 different media experiences: television, including TV commercial breaks, online, including email, and their direct mail. Engagement, which is one of the 2 key metrics for advertising effectiveness, was something like 33% higher than for the equivalent email experience, and something like 60% higher on average than the TV experience. So that was a really powerful finding, and the first time mail has been compared on a like-for-like basis with other media platforms like that. Those people who say they reject advertising mail were slightly more positive, not just in their brain waves, but also in given free rein to either open mail or throw it away. They actually opened more items of mail and read through them than the people who tell us they're much more positive towards advertising mail. What we want to do in this study was take that a stage further. So as well as all the advertising content I've talked about, we added one other piece of content into both the printed mail and the email parts of the study. And that piece was for a totally fictional brand that we'd created, initially for another study that was done a few months ago, which was a fictional spa retreat in the heart of England called Knighton Grange. And what we did was we gave the brochure, it's a very lovely brochure, to half of the sample, and we put the email advertising to the other half of the sample. And what we found was a significant number, almost 1 in 5, of those who'd received the brochure during the session actually switched their choice to Knighton Grange, but only 1 in 50, which was through the email, did the same thing. We were able to then go back and look at the people who did switch their preference, and what we saw from that was that with the brochure, it was when they were really reading the brochure, about 60 seconds in, where there was a massive difference in the actual long-term memory encoding they were exhibiting compared to the rest of the sample. Long-term memory encoding is by far the best predictor of future performance. We saw a really strong priming effect from TV to mail, and that is something I'd seen when I worked at ThinkBox. TV tends to create the sense of momentum. It tends to be, in a sense, the narrative spine to a campaign. But then other media, and I think mail in particular, can then be primed by that and work a lot more powerfully as a result. I absolutely don't believe this is mail instead of email or instead of television or indeed instead of anything else. What I think this really showed is that media working together is a more powerful impact than either medium working in isolation. I think what the neuroscience research says about mail is that actually all of those facets, it's the tactility, the sense of ownership, the fact it comes through our front door in itself, it's part of the real world, all of these things actually prime us to automatically process it differently, particularly compared to email.